Hey there, I'm Kyle Gach, and I'm a developer experience engineer at Chromatic. My focus is helping people learn Storybook and making it as easy as possible to get started and be productive. So, let's talk about Storybook and compatibility with the tools that you use. Since version 5, Storybook has been focused on working with the broad ecosystem of front-end development tools. Things like React, Vue, Angular, Web Components, Svelte, Webpack, Vite, Sass, CSS modules, styled components, Emotion, PostCSS, Tailwind, and many, many more. It's a critical part of what makes Storybook work for you. It's got to work with all of the other tools that you're using. Our goal has always been that Storybook works with all of your tools with minimal setup. Prior to Storybook 7, we tackled this problem by publishing packages for builders and renderers, and further configuration was provided by presets and add-ons. This worked, but it still required some setup between each of those packages, particularly if you were using a meta framework like Next.js or SvelteKit, which provide a bunch of configuration for your project that Storybook needs to mimic. Before we move on to explain the new architecture, I want to zoom in on the renderers for a second. The code snippets on our docs site are specific to the renderer that you've chosen. So the React docs show React code, the Vue docs show Vue code, and so on. How often have you been looking through our docs and encountered a message like this? You'll see that message whenever you encounter a code snippet that isn't written for the renderer that you use. Web Components, in this case. We did an audit of every code snippet in our docs and found that they were only available for about 70% of the cases. So the real state of our snippets was more like this. As I said, we want Storybook to work with all of your tools, and that includes how we document things. So the Storybook 7 documentation has full 100% coverage for code snippets in each of our 4 core renderers. That same snippet now looks like that. Okay, back to the bigger picture. In Storybook 7, we still have builders, renderers, and the other configuration, but now we package up those tools into easier to use combinations that we call frameworks. They contain a builder, like Webpack or Vite, a renderer, React, Vue, Angular, Web Components, Svelte, and so on, and any necessary configuration to build and render your components and stories. For example, the Next.js framework pictured here combines Webpack, React, and a few styling solutions and a bunch of Next-specific configuration into a single package. We'll look at this one in more detail in just a bit. Another, more bare-bones example might combine Vite, Vue, and some Tailwind configuration. These new framework packages enable a zero configuration setup for most storybooks. So far, we have frameworks available for combinations of all of these popular tools. But we're just getting started. In addition to the frameworks themselves, we also released a framework API. That API was used to create all of the frameworks that you just saw. It makes it straightforward to leverage existing builders and renderers, or you can integrate a brand new one. And the API is available to the community, so you can create a framework to extend Storybook to work with your tools and share it with others. Let's dive into a couple of those frameworks we're particularly excited about. One of the first frameworks we built to help develop the API was for Next.js. It combines Webpack, React, and most of the built-in features of Next.js, which will just work out of the box in Storybook now. Next.js 12 and 13 are both supported, and all the features you see here are included. So for example, it works with both the Pages directory and the experimental apps directory. It also works with the old and new versions of Next Image, Next Link, Next Navigation, Next Router, Next Font. We've done a lot of work to make sure that Next projects work really well in Storybook. And in the future, we're working directly with Vercel toward building support for the brand new TurboPack builder, as well as a better experience around React server components. I want to give a big shout out here to Ryan Clements and Aaron Reisman, who have community add-ons that provided a great start to this work. We've also developed a SvelteKit framework. It supports the brand new SvelteKit 1.0, so you can develop and test your components the SvelteKit way right inside Storybook. For example, your asset paths and web imports will both just work with no effort on your part, and you can access a mock of your app store as you're developing. We're working closely with the SvelteKit maintainers to add even more features, notably support for mocking form and navigation actions, which is coming up next. We're also discussing how Storybook might be able to eventually support some of the more server-side features. Are you ready to try it? Frameworks are built right into Storybook 7's CLI tool. So upgrading your project or starting a brand new one are each a single command away. Now note that Storybook 7 is still in pre-release, so you'll need to use that version of the command, but we expect to have the official major release very soon. Let's see what it looks like to start a brand new Next.js Storybook project. First, it'll detect the type of the project for you. It'll install all the necessary dependencies. I sped that part up a little bit here. It adds the necessary Storybook configuration, as well as some example stories to get you started. Finally, it'll run a few optional auto migrations, which are just helpers to translate from one version to the next, such as adding a Storybook linting plugin and then helping you migrate from MDX 1 to 2. The Framework API provides our best foundation yet for supporting the huge variety of tools that you use to make your projects. Here's a sneak peek at what's coming up next. So we're continuing to work on the Next.js and SvelteKit frameworks, adding more features and improving their stability. And we're also working with community members to develop frameworks for Solid.js, Nuxt, Quick, and Remix. We're so excited about the potential that this Framework API brings to supporting even more of the ecosystem. Thanks for coming along. We're super excited about the Framework API and the frameworks that we and you can build with it.